What's good, YouTube? Sam Webb back again with my series on creating a custom Shopify website from scratch. Today we're going to be covering sections, snippets, and CSS. So let's get started. So firstly, as you can see, we've got our server running. And I'm going to hop over to the actual website here. Let's bring over that. I'm going to hop over to the website. And as you see where we left off, there's not much going on here. We've got the hello YouTube there, but there's no styling or anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove a lot of the extra stuff like the header and the footer, and what we're going to be left with is kind of this one area right here, and what we're going to do is turn that into a section. Let's hop over to the code. So first we're going to hop into layout. We're going to hop into password since we're working on the password page, and as you can see down here, we've got the footer, we've got the header, and the shop name, that's where the Sam Webb comes from. And we've got the login form for if you want to log into the front of the site. So in a later video, I'm going to add this back in, but for now, let's get rid of that. Let's also get rid of the footer, and let's also get rid of the header. Save. And let's see when it's done. Okay, and what we're going to be left with is just this form, and I forgot to get rid of the share. So the share links are actually part of the actual content. So we don't need password anymore. At least we don't need the layout password. Now we're going to need the template password. And here's the social sharing. So I want to get rid of that, and the login link as well. And now if I save, refresh the page, should get rid of, yep, there we go, should get rid of that as well. So now we're just left with the hello YouTube, and find out when we open, and then the email so that you could have people sign up for your site as a customer before the site actually opens. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this into a section. So let's start by creating a new section, and let's call this password page .liquid. That's going to be good enough. Or do we want to call it password page? Maybe password sign up .liquid. And what I'm going to do is take all of this, paste it into password sign up, save that, and then do section password sign up. Save that. And once this is done loading, we're going to check. So it should look exactly the same. And it does. Alright, so right now, what we've done is we've moved all of that code into a section. Which, what that does is it gives us access to this schema tag. And within here, we're going to put an object, and then, so a section requires at least two things. One is going to be a name, and the other thing is going to be the settings. So we're going to give this a name, and we're going to call it password sign up. And then settings is an array of different settings. And so what do we want to do for settings? So first we want to do the intro message. So let's get rid of hello. Well, first let's make a setting for it. So goes ID, and we're going to call this headline. We're going to have a type of text. We're going to have a label of headline. We're going to have a default of welcome. Welcome to my site. with an exclamation point. Save that. Then up here, what we're going to do is section.settings.headline. And so now, I'm going to put some space up here so we can see. So now, what I've done here is I've created a setting for the section. It's called headline, so that's what you use in the code. It's of type text, so it's going to show up as a text field in section settings. The label of it is headline, so this is what you're actually going to see in the settings. So this name, the ID is what you use in the code, and this is what you see in the admin. And then you can give it a default. And so what we did was we gave it a default of welcome to my site, and then you could also change this in the section settings, so you don't need to change it here. This is just if whenever this section first gets added, this is what it's going to show up as. And so then up here, we've got this H2 that takes section, which is the entire file, so the schema tag. So basically, this object here is section. And if you think of it like JavaScript, so you've got section is this object. You use dot notation, dot settings. And then this is where it gets a little different. So it's not exactly like JavaScript, because you wouldn't be able to do dot notation to grab headline. But each of these objects are basically the name of each of these objects is headline. So you could do section.settings.headline, or this one is called headline, and the ID is what each of these is going to be called. And so section.settings.headline will grab the default here, or whatever text you override it in section settings. First, we're going to look at it on the front end and see if this changes. Okay, so we got welcome to my site, so we know that works. And really quickly, I just want to go off on a quick tangent about how there's two types of sections. There are dynamic sections, and then there's this, which is the static section. And the difference is, and we'll cover this a little bit more when we get to the home page, but the difference is that dynamic sections can only be used on the home page, and a dynamic section is more of a template of code that you could reuse multiple times, whereas a static section is one section, and wherever you place it on the site, it will use the same content. So if I was to place this exact same section on a different page, anytime on whichever page I change it on, it'll change it for both. And so that might be a bit confusing, but we're gonna get a little deeper into that as we go along. And really quickly, something I want to do here is just wrap all this in a tag, and I'll give it a class later. Where's this? Okay, it's all gonna be wrapped in there. But I just wanted to do this just to because of how I'm gonna style this more and how I'm gonna position it and stuff like that. And I'm gonna refresh the page. It shouldn't have changed anything. Yep. And so now what I want to do is I want to show you how this works in the admin. So if I go to, I'm in themes, and if I go to customize on dupe, remember we're working in dupe, not in the primary. And okay, it has me on the home page, so I want to do the password page. And as you can see, I think I mentioned this in the last video where if there's a section on a certain page, you can only edit it on the pages that it's on. So if we go back to home page really quickly, you notice that that section isn't here anywhere. And if we go to maybe cart, that section is also not here. But if we go to password page, now that section is there. And if we open it up, we've got headline here, and we can change it to welcome to our site. Maybe we want 2 exclamation points. Save that. And if I refresh this, we've got welcome to our site. And so in here, the default is still going to be welcome to my site. So anytime this theme gets uploaded somewhere else, it's gonna, like, if a new version of this theme gets created, it's gonna default back to this until it gets changed in that theme. Because theme settings and sections are theme specific; they're not site specific. Right, so now, next, we want to actually style this a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close those and I'm going to hop into styles and I'm going to go into templates and I'm going to create a new template. And that template is going to be called password.scss. The one thing we do, if we hop into theme, you'll see that there are a bunch of different CSS files loading in here. But if we go back to the template, we're going to need to see which layout is being used. So the layout that's being used is password, not theme. So that's important because theme would have been pulling from well, firstly, it'll be pulling from this JavaScript file, right, which will then be pulling in this CSS. Excuse me. So what I'm going to need to do here is I'm going to need to make a layout file called password.js. And then I don't really need any of this, but I do want to grab this here, just as a template, and change that to password. And so this is looking for a template called password, which we don't have yet. Or no, this is going to be looking for a template CSS called password, which we do have. And when making that, I believe I'm going to have to restart the server to get that to work. So let's run that. And this time what you'll see is I'm using a command called yarn watch. And so last time what you saw was yarn start. And what yarn start does is it builds everything, it deploys it, and it sets up a connection to browser sync and stuff like that, and to your store. So when we cut the server off, we still have those connections, and so we don't need to do the deploy and all that stuff. It's already happened, and so what you can do is run a yarn watch, which will basically just spin the server back up and reconnect you to browser sync, and you can continue doing your development. And one thing you'll end up running into is if you've so one thing that'll happen is sometimes you'll run a yarn deploy, and what happens there is it kind of breaks that connection. So if you ever run a yarn deploy, then you're actually going to have to run yarn start again instead of yarn watch. So that's just something to keep in mind. And this usually goes a bit faster. It's going kind of slow right now, but that's fine. I'm going to hop back over here so we can get started again. And so, okay, let's let that reconnect. And so what we want to do is start getting some CSS in here. So I'm going to first add some classes. Let's call this password. It's the only thing really on the page, so we can just call it password. Actually, let's call it password signup. And class password signup headline. And for now, I'm gonna, well, I think I'll just add a class to this as well. As you can see, this is a liquid tag that creates a form, and you can pass things to it, and one of those things is you can pass the class or class list that's going to be on it. Let's call it password signup form. And the last thing we're going to say class equals password signup message. And we're going to end it there. And so I'm going to start copying some of these over really quickly, just so I don't have to keep jumping back and forth when we're actually writing the code. Right. And so what do we want to do? Actually, looking down there. So the question is, what do we want to do to the site? Now, one thing I want to do is I kind of want to center all this, and I also want a background image as well. Just something interesting, just something that keep the site looking lively. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to this website here called Unsplash.com. It's a great website to get free stock photography. And I'm just gonna so we're on the home page here, and we're just gonna grab something. I kind of want something tall because I want it to take up the entirety of the page. So let's just go with this. Download for free. And I'm also going to download it first. I'm also going to copy this, and I'm going to add it in to the description below. And so for now, I'm just going to pop it into the README. Right. And and this is it's not like I said, crediting isn't required, but it's appreciated. So I would just rather credit this person. So let's close out of that. Hop back over here. And so what that means is we're going to need another field in this section to house that background image. So we're going to hop back in here. Background image type. So we're going to come up on another type here, and this type is image picker. And this basically allows you to grab an image from your file system and upload it to Shopify and then use it for different image sections. Label, so call it background image, and we're not going to put a default here. And so now what we're going to want to do is, what I think I'm going to do is, excuse me again, I'm going to have the image force the size of the container. Actually, I'm going to use it as a background image, and I'm going to have this container take up the full height of the page. And so there are a few ways you can do this. I'm just going to do this a very simple way and just inline it. So style equals background image URL in there, and then throw these in there. And we're going to do settings, section.settings.background image. And so if we look at this, right, we're looking at this one, and so this is how we get the heading. So it would stand to reason that this is how we get the image. But what this actually returns is not the image itself, but this returns an image object, which then you can run filters on. And so a filter is just something that you can run on different objects in Liquid. And so, and there's a bunch of filters you can run, but for this case, we're going to run, and you put the pipe right there to run a filter. But for this case, what we're going to run is image URL, and for now, we're just going to put master, which means it's going to grab the largest, it's going to grab the actual image size. So what you could do here is, if you want it to be a specific size, you can put 500 by 500, and that'll give you 500 by, that'll give you whichever, so for this will give you whichever size is closest. So if 500 is the larger of the two numbers on the original, it'll give you a say that it's 500 height by, or say the original image is 900 height by 800 width. So what you'll end up here with is 500 height by whatever width that translates down to keep the aspect ratio the same, unless you put crop on. So we're not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to do is we're just going to put master to get the full-sized image. I'm going to save that. And then in here, that might give us that really ugly So if we go in here, you see that we've got a background image and it's the no image. It's so big, it's hard to see it. And so what we need to do now is refresh this page. Open password sign up, and now we have this image picker field called background image. So we're going to select an image and upload an image. It's going to go straight to my desktop. I'm going to grab that. Hopefully it's a good size. It's a little big. Let's find another one. Save that. Copy that. And before I paste this in, I'm going to actually see if this one is a good size. Yep, so now we've got it uploaded. And as you can see, it is loading extremely, well, it's done loading. So let's select for now and save. Hop back here and hop into the README. And we're going to replace that last image with this. Alright. So now we've got a background image and it's showing. And so next we kind of want to set the, so there's a few things going on here. Let's refresh this so we can actually see it. So there's a few things going on here. One, there's a few styles that are kind of on the body. As you can see, there's some margin on the body, and then there's some actual margining on this headline that's kind of causing a lot of spacing issues around the edges. So there's a few things we're going to do to remedy that right now. And in password CSS, I'm also just going to do body. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to do it here. So we're just going to do body. I'm going to say margin 0, which should get rid of this. Might not be connected. And I think I know why. So if we hop back into the JavaScript, this is why you want to pay attention. So this is going straight to styles and then password. There is no styles and then password. So we need to go styles, templates, password. And that should solve this. Alright, small mistake there. After we made those changes and created that password.js layout file, what we did after that was we ran a yarn watch. And again, yarn watch is good to get the server back up, but a change like that actually required a yarn start. So that's where we ran into an issue. And so now, if we look, we've still got the CSS that we wrote a little earlier with the body and margin 0. If we go here, we've got no margin on the side. We've got margin on the top, but that's coming from the H2 element. So if we hop back in here and add a margin 0, and we're going to add a margin bottom back to this at some point, but now you can see that that is also gone. And so there are a few things that I want to do here. So let me hop back into this. I also want to put a div inside of here. And we'll call it kind of wrapper, or just call it inner, and put everything that's in here within that. And the reason for this is because, like I said a little earlier, I want to make the password sign up take up the entirety of the page, and I want to make the inside centered. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a background color. I'm going to say RGBA. RG, and we're going to go with, I guess it's what, 255, and we're going to put 0.5. 6. I should put a little clearish background behind that. And then we're going to say on this position relative, we're going to make it width 100%. We're going to say height 100%. And with that, that means we also need to do. So now we got everything to 100% like we were trying to get. And so another issue here is this background looks terrible right now. And so what we're going to want to do is get some sizing on that. So it's just background size. Let's say 100%. Actually, let's just say cover. See what happens there. So now we got the background there. Let's make this full. I think I need a wide image, not a tall one. So let's hop back in here and swap this out. And let's X out this. And I kind of want to use a wide image. I was thinking a tall one because of scrolling up and down in the browser, but we're not gonna. This is gonna be a pretty small section, so it doesn't need to be wide. It needs to be tall. This is pretty cool. Let's grab that, copy that, and we're gonna hop back into the admin, change the image to the wide image. Select it, save, and that is much better. If we hop back in here, we've got that in the middle there. So next, we're going to want to continue working on the sign up. It's or the inner sign up, and so we're going to say position absolute. We're going to position it left 50%, and we're also going to do top 50%. Minus 50% and minus 50%. And what this is going to do is center it vertically and horizontally in the middle. And so let's continue with making sure that we have a nice looking inner. So what we're going to want to do is put some padding on this. So padding, just call it 40 pixels. And have a look really quickly. And maybe put a border on this as well. And then all this text, I'm going to want to center it. And so, you know what, and above this, let's do star. We'll fix some of the sizing issues. And then, now this is just like a really simple setup. And the point of this was to show you how to use sections properly, right? So I'm not going to go too crazy with the styles of this. I'm probably going to, after the video, do a little bit more just to pretty it up. But this is a very quick example of how sections work. And also, I think one of the things I said was I want to do snippets. So really quickly, let's make sure that we're making this reusable. So right now, the section itself is very much it's not reusable, right? You can kind of place it on a bunch of different pages, but the section itself is not reusable. And so one thing that I like to do with sections, now this specific section is probably not the best example of this, but we're going to use it more often in other sections, and so I kind of want to just go over it now. Is a lot of times I want to make the HTML a snippet, and I want to make the content that's being passed into a section. That was weird. So let's go. Let's go password sign.liquid. And now up here you can see that one of them is in sections, one's in snippets. So what I like to do is take all this and move it in here. right? And then in here, I do include password sign up. And what this does is it'll take this will take the outer scope and use it in the inner scope, but I don't like to use it that way. But as I'll show you that it still works, right? But uh, one of the things I mentioned in the last video is that you can actually pass arguments to snippets, and the way I like to do this is there's a few ways you can pass them, but I like to use with and then pass in what looks like an object in JavaScript or a hash in Ruby. And I like to pass these things in, so I'll say headline equals section dot settings dot headline, and bg image equals section dot settings dot background. Right, and then within the snippet, at that point, I can just do headline, and I can do bg image. And so the reason I like to do this is reusability. Now, again, I mentioned that this is not the best, and I'm going to come here and refresh the page and show you that it works really quickly. But the reason that this isn't the this isn't the best section to use this in is because it's a very specific form, right? This form is all very specific to password sign up. You're really only going to use it one place. I mean, this is a customer form, so you could use the form somewhere else, but on this page, we're using it a little differently. And so, a better example would be, say, if we were doing a hero image, and I think I mentioned this, we had a bunch of different sections and sometimes it's being pulled from, say, meta fields, or it's being pulled from content on our product page, or it's being pulled from a section. This is talking about the actual data. It would still be good to have a normalized HTML file that already has CSS written for it, already has HTML written for it, that you basically call like this and just pass some stuff into. So we could also just directly say headline equals hello world, and we could manually put in I don't have an image URL on me right now, but if I come back here, you'll see that this now says hello world, right? So you could pass any data you want into an include, and you can use this anywhere on the site, whereas the schema information is just for this section. So it's a way to mix reusability uh, with your sections. And so we're going to do a little bit more of this, especially on the home page and on the other pages. But this is just a quick example of how you can use a snippet within a section to kind of make the HTML itself reusable, but make sure you're passing in the right content to it. And with that, we are done with this video. So hopefully that was a good introduction into sections. We're going to get a little deeper into it. We're going to get a little bit more complex with them, and hopefully that helps with learning how the CSS works and how the JavaScript kind of interacts with CSS. And so yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.